morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's 2021. For the first time, we're back we're going to do another show today. So, good morning, Christos.
Good morning, Happy New Year. Are you sure it's not like 12/35, 2020?
It feels like it's March 319th, 2020. I mean, I don't know. So far, it's been an interesting week. We had Bean Dad, who sounds like a giant jackass.
That was insane.
And
what was Bean Dad?
Else?
Oh, he's so out of the loop.
This
I'm
guy
way out of the loop.
This dude on Twitter wrote a long thread about how he tried to teach his child how to use a can opener by being incredibly opaque and just, I don't know, kind of a jackass to his kid. I mean, I've got a 7-year-old, and I don't know, I wouldn't do that to him. I'd be like, hey man, this is how you use a can opener. And then if he asked me again later, I'd be like, well, let's think about it from the last time, not, hey, 7 hours from now, maybe you can decrypt my instructions from earlier in the day. I don't know.
Yeah, this seems a little crazy. So sorry, I'll catch up on my Bean Dad lore later.
Yeah, it was insane yesterday. You know, the amount of conversation and heat that he brought in, and then everybody.
This is why I stay away from Twitter, guys. Which, you know, unfortunately for the Powershell fans, is not always. They don't always love that, but Twitter, man, it's just sometimes it's a little too much for me.
It's a tool. I find it useful as long as I stay in the bubble I want to have for myself, because you can totally get lost into the Twitter sphere and then get messed up. So what
you have to remember it's for identifying and ridiculing bean dads. That's what it was made for.
No, it's for reaching out to the Powershell team when I can't get them on Teams.
Exactly.
I DM you guys. There you go. We're talking about, just before we started the stream, we were talking about the new Apple chip and the M1s and how we would love to have one. So we're accepting donations. If you like the show, let us know. But
they are very exciting, and I do believe, I may be coming out in front a little bit of intros or whatever, but I do believe that the PowerShell team is getting a hold of one or two to do some testing. I know .NET's been looking at the thing, so it's like that thing's going to be running your PowerShell very soon, hopefully.
There you have it, folks. You heard it here first.
That you might have actually. This might have been where you heard it here first. I think that was a break that we just made.
And that's a wrap. We're good to go.
That's it. Thanks for joining the show. The M1s are very exciting. See you guys.
So let's do some introductions here, because I think it was a little bit irregular how we introduce something. So you have us, JP and Christos. We've been here for 7 months now. Whoop. And you'll see a lot more of us in the new year. We have some really exciting stuff. We have exciting guests. We have fantastic topics to talk about. And we kick off the year with our really good friend, Joey Aiello. Did I pronounce the surname correctly?
It's Aiello, actually, with the...
Aiello.
Yeah, none of the silent L's. You get that a lot in California, but...
oh, really?
Yeah.
Because, in certain languages like French and Spanish, the double L's...
Yeah, the double L's, yeah. But no, it's Aiello.
Aiello, okay.
Italian.
Perfect. And he's a PM for PowerShell. We've been working together for, 2 years now? And it was a great opportunity to have him on the show and talk about PowerShell. And in fact, we'll be seeing you guys a lot more frequently on the stream. I think once a month now, you'll be coming to talk about PowerShell and where we're going. So it's really exciting to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Christos. And as Christos said, I am the PM lead for PowerShell. We've been doing the PowerShell 7 stuff, and Christos was just a pleasure to work with as our marketing representative for a very...
I was, not anymore.
For, unfortunately, all too brief a period of time. But we had a phenomenal Ignite 2019 on the backs of Christos's efforts. So I'm really excited to be here, and really excited what he's been working on too. I want to hear more about what you've been doing, man.
It's a different type of collaboration. So for those ones that are new on the stream, we focus on identity, but it is an identity show that is more than just identity. we love to bring people to talk about things that they build around identity. So usually identity is a 5 or 10% of the whole solution. We try to provide end-to-end scenarios. So not just how do I do X with identity, but how do I build the solution end-to-end, and where does identity fit in there? And we had people that showcased PowerShell or they built stuff with PowerShell before, but it was, I'm building something, I'm using PowerShell for X. And there's a strong element of identity even in PowerShell, because you need to authenticate against something before you run your scripts. Especially in the cloud space where you have Azure PowerShell, and then you have the bigger PowerShell. It's vitally important to do it correctly, i.e. using service principles and what have you to securely run your scripts. And now with PowerShell being supported on Azure Functions, it unlocks so many scenarios. I mean, it's not now; it's been there for a while.
Yep.
But Azure Functions and PowerShell have been my go-to things when I want to run something against Azure. So it's fantastic to have these capabilities.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's very interesting to me how little real hard info there is on identity out there, just given how critical it is to, every application's got to do identity in some respect.
Yes.
Nowadays. And, it's, if you go out there, like you said, you get the hello world examples, but in 99 times out of 100, that thing says, don't ever do this in production. And you're like, what do I do in production then? So it's good that you guys are filling this gap. And I know certainly in the PowerShell space, there's been, identity has been a very challenging problem over the years. That's not something, just being able to pop up a password prompt, and take a string securely can be a very tricky thing. And so absolutely we want to get all those questions answered. And just filling a good niche here.
Brett Miller is saying Azure Functions and PowerShell is love. It is indeed. You can do so many things these days with these things. So what's the future for PowerShell, right? You have PowerShell now running everywhere, which is awesome. It's open source. So do we call it PowerShell Core, or with PowerShell 7 we went mainstream and now everything is just PowerShell 7 ideally?
We did the .NET thing, which you can blame me. I know the naming has been insane, and but yeah, okay. we did what they did, which is basically we dropped the core from the branding, nice. And then we said, hey, we're gonna rev the major version number up to 7, so we're now at PowerShell 7. You can keep calling it core as a way to differentiate it from Windows PowerShell if you want, right? But we're really just trying to drive. The problem is we got a lot of feedback over the years that core really gives the connotation that it's a lesser package, that it's just the core pieces, right? And it's like, well, really at this point, 7's more of a superset of Windows PowerShell, or at the very least a Venn diagram that's got plenty on the 7 only side of the set. So we said let's just call it PowerShell. This is the one and only PowerShell we want to support going forward. Windows PowerShell is still maintenance mode serviced. We do tons of, security updates are like P0. That's, but we want that to be a stable platform for the customers still, stuck in the inbox Windows land. And then, 7 is the du jour going forward.
Yes. So we have PowerShell 7 that runs everywhere. We're just discussing about the M1 chips, and that PowerShell will be coming to that soon. And then we have
soon asterisk no ETA. Don't at me.
We're not promising. We're not putting dates here, but we're working towards that. That's the whole point.
Well,
right?
you can at me actually. Yeah, adding me is okay.
And then we have the current Linux and macOS operating system that do support it out of the box. What I've noticed over the years is that we also have revved up the tooling. So right now, I think the recommended way of working with PowerShell is VS Code, because it is fantastic for editing stuff. I think if you're using IC, then ideally you should be moving away to VS Code. But VS Code offers so much more than just what ICE used to do before. So now you have VS Code and PowerShell. What about code spaces? Can you run anything in code spaces?
Yeah, I gotta actually get up on the code spaces details. Because there's so many ways to draw that dotted line. Right. When you're leveraging VS Code Online. Like I know for sure one of the basic building blocks here, I think that gets you in the door, is that we support the VS Code over SSH feature.
Right.
So that's the one where, hey, I'm running like a headless Visual Studio Code on a dev machine server,
Right.
And that could be hosted in the cloud. That's like my persistent dev workspace, and I SSH to that machine from a VS Code client on my arbitrary thin client laptop or desktop workstation or whatever, and then I get this connected VS Code session in the GUI space. So it's not that I'm actually SSH'd in to a terminal, but I actually have this connection that allows me to just basically be rendering a remote VS Code on my local workstation, which means that exactly what you were working on with your Git repos, exactly where they were and all that sort of thing, you just connect into the server from whichever machine, and suddenly you're back in that workspace, in that workflow. So I think that Codespaces like relies on a lot of that for feature sets. So I think at this point, I don't want to misspeak and say that we support it, but I think I'm fairly certain like Tyler Leonhardt and folks around that were buzzing about Codespaces stuff with PowerShell on Twitter. So you might know more than I do here, actually. But,
Well, you know what? Maybe we should take it out for a spin one day. We have a question from Fuel Snubble. What is the future of PowerShell ISE?
Yeah, so you kind of alluded to this before. The future of PowerShell ISE is the same as Windows PowerShell, which is to say that we want to leave it in place for the same reasons that we don't want to make changes to it or improve it, right? Which is basically that there's a stable component in the operating system that we know that people depend on. They're going to continue depending on it for a very long time. We liken Windows PowerShell to CMD, which we're very close with the folks that work on CMD and console hosts and Windows Terminal and all that. And Rich Turner published a blog post a long time ago saying CMD is dead, long live CMD, right? And that's kind of how I feel about PowerShell XE and PowerShell ISE, which is to say, hey, like, we know you got batch scripts you're going to be running. You ran for 20 years and you're going to be running for 20 more. We're not taking the thing out. And the PowerShell and ISE are the same reason. We know you're RDPing into that one machine still, and that you still got to do that one thing on PowerShell ISE, and the script is, it's on that machine. You're whatever. We're not touching it, but we also don't want to touch it, because if we do anything to it to improve it or do anything like that, like we've done it in the past. Oh, we're going to make this accessibility fix or whatever. Boom, like, oh, we broke all the tab completion for ISE. How does that happen? Well, it turns out locales are hard, and testing across 96 versions of the operating system or whatever is like not a bulletproof process. But it's we want to make sure it works forever for you. So you get what you get. But code is really for both Windows PowerShell and PowerShell 7, code's where it's at.
Yeah, in fact, I tried early on to get somebody from the team to come and do, because in Identity we have a lot of PowerShell scripting, and we have a lot of people, even internally in our team, that use PowerShell day in, day out. But most of them were not aware that VS Code is the way to go forward. So we were planning on getting somebody from the team to come and do a session like, what can you do with VS Code today, and why is it better? Like, what are the features that we can use?
Right.
So maybe we can actually plan this for our next meeting or the next session, where we can do maybe 10-15 minutes of a tour around VS Code and PowerShell.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you that don't know her already, I'm happy to bring in Sydney Smith, who's the PM on a bunch of that.
Yes.
And she's phenomenal. We'd love to go through just a tour of all the VS Code stuff. I mean, it always kind of surprises me when I hear that, because as somebody that like I was using VS Code kind of when it came out, it was like, what's this? What's going on? And it was very clear to me with all these like language mode suggestions and stuff that if something wasn't supported by a first-party platform owner or language owner, there was definitely somebody out there that was building an extension for it. So when I hear that people are like, I didn't know I could do PowerShell stuff in code, I'm always like, what can you not do in code? Exactly. Like, it's all out there. You just got to get all the, and they even tell you open up a little file. They're like, you're going to want the PowerShell extension for this one.
Yes.
Buddy. Yeah.
It's fantastic how VS Code has a great ecosystem. So even though Microsoft is not fast enough to churn out all these different extensions, the community jumps in and fills the gap, which is great.
It's open source, baby.
Finally, JP has rebuilt his machine, and he's only using VS Code. Only took us what, 9 months? It's not too bad. So what's the future for PowerShell? I mean, are we feature complete? Are we now like what are we adding as we go forward? Because I believe that with 7 we did a major jump up and we included new APIs and what have you. But what should people expect from PowerShell as we move forward?
Totally, yeah. So 2021 is going to be a great year for PowerShell. You know, it's definitely somewhere where we're not slowing down, right? The pedal is to the metal here in terms of stuff that we're implementing. The team's got more stuff to do than ever.
Nice.
There are, a couple projects that I'm going to be excited to be announcing over the next month or two. You know, stuff that we can't quite talk about yet, but that we've been sort of incubating on the side. So for those of you, because we always get the folks going, it seems like the contributors on the PowerShell repo have been a little bit absent the last couple months or whatever, and it's like, yes, like we're they'll get to your issues, but also like those folks are doing some stuff that will be awesome. But we're wrapping up a lot of modules because we have this issue, right, with the platform and the ecosystem, right, with PowerShell. The platform is really like the language, the runtime, that core PowerShell platform and package. The ecosystem is all the modules around PowerShell that you use, everything you get from the PowerShell gallery, all the tooling that helps you use all that stuff. And one of the things that I think .NET sort of realized too with 5, and that we're kind of figuring out with 7, is that hey, there's a lot of stuff here within the PowerShell package that we don't really want to break. Right? Like people are really starting to take a hard production dependency on this thing. We played a little fast and loose when adoption was a little bit lower, but at this point, hey, the runtime's got to be rock stable, right? Yep. And so in that regard, we're really trying to increase some of the governance and the requirements around contributing things to PowerShell, right? Nice. I'm going to be going back to Steve Lee, the engineering manager for PowerShell, today to let him know that I'm not quite done with some stuff around what we're calling PowerShell working groups, which are basically going to be a way to really open up and decentralize the decision-making process within PowerShell. So we simultaneously want to kind of lock things down a little more, but we also want more folks coming in from the outside and really scaling ourselves out so that we're leveraging the open source community for contributions and design and decision-making processes and that sort of thing. So you're going to see that happen in PowerShell, but with that, some of the process and governance around, hey, like we want to contribute this thing to PowerShell, well, you're going to have to jump through a couple hoops, and it really needs to be justified why you think this thing belongs in the core PowerShell package. Because as I've been bearing the lead here, we really want to move most of the innovation out to that module ecosystem, right? And that doesn't just mean relying on our community members, but it means that, hey, when we have great ideas, we want to go to the PowerShell gallery to ship those ideas, and then decide, hey, is there demand for this thing? Is this the right user interface? Do we need to continue making changes here? We want to be able to deliver that innovation down level to 5.1. We want to be able to continue updating that module on a basis that is independent from the PowerShell release cadence, which is roughly annual. And so that's why you see modules like PowerShell Get 3.0, secret management and the secret store, the predictive intelligence work that we're doing in PS Readline with az.predictor module. There's a bunch of these. I should have a list in front of me, and I'll probably pull it up in the next 30 seconds. But there's a bunch of these modules that we're doing that they're going to work on 5.1. You've been able to track with the previews, as we've released, whether you're a PowerShell 7.0 LTS customer, 7.1 active branch customer, or you're someone that's always rocking the previews with 7.2 already. The point here is that you can play with these things, and we see tons of hype for the secret management. For those not aware, this is a module that basically centralizes the abstraction for retrieving secrets and credentials, right? So, hey, I use the Windows Cred Store and I use Azure Key Vault, but I also got some machines over there on Linux that are using HashiCorp's Vault for secret management. Okay, well, you don't have to write 3 different scripts now depending on where you're interfacing with that secret. You just write the one script get secret, get secret foo, and then you just swap out the configuration behind that so that your Linux machines are using HashiCorp and your Windows machines are using CredStore or AKV or whatever. So we've already seen like we put out this preview module, then you get folks in the community building providers for it. You already have folks that built like KeyPass and AWS Secret Manager and all this different stuff. And then, people are using that in 5.1, 7.0, 7.1, 7.2. But we really think this is going to sort of centralize the abstraction for, hey, like script authors now can put stuff out there that says, I don't care what secret provider you're using. This is configurable such that you can use it with whatever you want. And that infrastructure is kind of built into the ecosystem. We want to, in 2021, keep looking at scenarios like that where we can sort of go, hey, we want script authors to be able to write more universal code, and then have the machine owner actually decide, hey, is this script? Where's the script going to go for a secret? Where's the script going to go for, say, logging? Where's the script going to go for SQL database or whatever? We've got a bunch of these we're kind of incubating. So
that's awesome.
That's what we're looking at. But there's really on top of that, we're doing 7.2, and there's going to be a planning and roadmap blog coming out in the next couple of weeks. So I know I'm going a little bit long here with our philosophy of planning as I lead into just say we're writing new modules and we're going to ship a new version of PowerShell. But
that's okay. I think so. I just flattened my machine a while back, a couple weeks ago, and I decided I wasn't going to install anything unless I absolutely needed it. And yesterday I needed to do some SQL stuff, and I thought, if I only had a PowerShell module for doing all the SQL stuff, this would make things so much easier. I wouldn't have to install anything, and ended up using like the SQL stuff in VS Code, but
almost had.
Almost.
It'd be pretty cool. I don't know. Like, I end up using PowerShell now more than WSL. Like, I use WSL for almost everything, and then in the past 30, 45 days, I've started using PowerShell a whole lot more. And just because, it's there. It's available. Why not?
Well, this is actually, you raise a great point, which is one of the things I left off the list for something that's very important, near and dear to my heart in 2021, which is getting PowerShell 7 closer to Windows Inbox, right? So right now, like, you're having to go get PowerShell 7 if you want to pick that up, which means that if you're using PowerShell on your super minimal, recently flattened machine, you're probably using Windows PowerShell, right? So we want people to be able to pick up the latest and greatest even easier. One of the things we did with 7.1 is we actually shipped PowerShell in the store. So if you're on a Windows 10 client OS, you can go and grab that from the store, which is certainly easier than navigating to GitHub releases, finding the right MSI for your SKU and architecture, installing that thing and then updating it on a cadence that you kind of manage yourself. This is, hey, I'm going to get auto updates. It's like a managed application. That's fantastic. But then you're going, well, yeah, but what about server folks? What if I want to, install this in an automatic fashion? For 2021, we're looking really hard at getting into the Microsoft download catalog. This is a huge priority for us. What that means is that you get support in Microsoft Update, which is Windows Update for non-Windows stuff. You get SCCM, you get WSUS, it's the Windows Server Update Services. You get all these places where suddenly the PowerShell 7 package can just be picked up from the download catalog's repository and audit it for update compliance and all that sort of thing. So, we think that means we're going to see more golden images out there with PowerShell 7. We're going to see more folks deploying it in IT and server environments because it's really a priority for us, because we keep hearing, it's like folks go, I just don't, like, why am I going to go install the thing if I got to keep updating it and I got to keep checking on it and all this stuff? I got enough applications as it is. So, that's kind of the goal there, is exactly for folks like you with those recently flattened minimal machines.
Well, I did install 7. I don't remember if I did it. I know I didn't do it through the store. I saw it in the store and thought, oh, that's interesting. But I was worried it was like going to lag behind, or it wasn't something that was actually supposed to be there. So
there's a couple weird quirks with it, unfortunately. So that's, but it is, they're pretty minimal.
Or maybe it was WinGet. I don't remember. I did install like PowerShell 7, but I've got 7.1. Like, how do I get to, how do you, like, when is this going to update? It's on me to update it, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's the problem. Yeah.
I like the prompt though. Like, hey, 7.2 is out. I don't have to go and check the repo every time. So it says 7.2, it gives you the URL. You go to GitHub repo and download it, which is great. but having a more mainstream way of downloading and updating things, that would be awesome. Because a lot of chat about PowerShell. Somebody said, well, let me see, who was it? Somebody mentioned Docker. So I think it was Robert Tables. Hey, it says, you know what? There is PowerShell in Docker. I might go and try it, which is great.
Please do.
I have installed it from, so Brett Miller saying, I have installed it from Homebrew. So the
Homebrewers
PS
are
team
great.
maintain their own.
Yeah, and this is actually one thing I should note here, is that, you know, I'm talking exclusively about problems that really only exist on Windows today, right? If you're using PowerShell 7 on Mac or Linux, you're brew updating. You know, if you're on Linux, you're apt updating and upgrading. So, you know, it's, or yumming. I don't know what you do with yum. Yeah, no, so this is, you know, it's largely a solved problem elsewhere where you have package managers like Winget. We also do support Winget. So as Winget becomes more prominent, like that is going to be a very easy way to go and grab PowerShell supported version. You know, so all these are ways to go pick up software. And our goal is, like, we talk a lot about ubiquity, which is just being everywhere. Like where if you need PowerShell in a place, you use a certain install mechanism, like we want to just support that so that you don't have to really change your ways to fit ours. And Docker's another great example of that, right? Those Docker containers are very well maintained. You know, we've got folks that are very hardcore about getting all those images and tags updated, and it is no small feat. But you know, I use the Alpine one at home for home automation stuff on Raspberry Pis. You know, picking up the latest one for Windows or for whatever, it's very easy to do and to just test out. You know, I'm pretty sure that thing works with the VS Code extension. I could be mistaken, but it should.
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 One thing that El Capitan Squirrel said, which I agree, it's like my secret tool for PowerShell is that it's backed up by .NET. So you can, you know,
exactly.
Rip modules, you can create your own modules, but if you ever get stuck and PowerShell can't do what you want to do, you just call into native .NET namespaces and you write your .NET code, which is callable from PowerShell, which is like...
Yeah, I mean, you can sit there, you could just dynamically compile a bunch of C# and then just run a function. Like, you could do whatever you want. So that's kind of... that's always a very nice fallback. And for those... You know, unfortunately, we typically have folks in the other direction, right? Which are like, hey... I want, like, let me fall back to batch, or let me fall back to, you know, something in the GUI or whatever. But yes, for those .NET devs that come in, because I'm sure you've got a zillion of those here watching your show, that come in and use PowerShell, the ability, like, just imagine if you're writing a bash script and then you're suddenly like, you know, it'd be really nice if I could just, you know, invoke a little .NET here or whatever, and you just sprinkle it in. It's pretty sweet. So.
Yeah, I use that a lot, sadly. Probably more than I'm supposed to. I've got scripts that are like full of classes and all this. It's like, yeah, why not? You know, daytime conversion functions and stuff. It's all sorts of good things.
Back in 2003, I created a Franken system where it would do SQL backups and then copy those backups across data centers using PowerShell. And then I would also set up replication on those SQL servers after the backups. All done via PowerShell. I think I have a blog post, a 3-series blog post,
nice
parts. But it was scary, the capabilities that I was able to do back then. That wasn't even cross-platform, right? 2003 was
right.
You know, mainstream PowerShell. But the damage that you can do as a .NET developer with PowerShell is just crazy. And CI/CD. Someone saying, Brett Miller is saying, XPlot PowerShell comes into its own when doing matrices of tests in CI/CD. As you can run multiple scripts across all OS.
Huge scenario for us, right? If you're doing cross-platform .NET development, especially, but really any kind of cross-platform app development, you know, what are your choices for running integration or even a unit test script that works across platforms? Like, where are you going to be able to run, you know, something that is going to test your application works fine and have only single piece of logic? You know, if you go out there, most major cross-platform open source projects, you know, they got a bash script for the Linux side and then maybe a PowerShell or a batch script for the Windows side, or they're using some proprietary test framework that, you know, has a bunch of dependencies and that sort of thing. PowerShell's out there integrated in all major CI/CD build agents. It's out there in GitHub Actions. It's out there in Azure DevOps. We know that Travis CI and or does Travis even exist? I forgot what their fate was.
Still exists, I think.
Okay, I know there was something shifting around with Travis. Circle CI, the major CI vendors. So it's there, and you could just write this PowerShell script in, and a bunch of times that PowerShell script looks basically identical to the Bash script. Like, a lot of people think that because PowerShell, like if you go look at the documentation, PowerShell's using commandlets and the capital letters, and I'm going to have to use this terrible, I don't like how it looks, and I'm stuck with that. The reality is, if you just are running a list of commands to do some validation and then writing that to a file, that's just copy paste your Bash script in, and now it'll run on Windows too. And that's it, right? I mean, it's just so, and be as pithy as you want and use all the crazy, GNU tools or whatever you want. It's definitely, that's a huge one for us. And we see a lot of folks, unfortunately our telemetry doesn't go the next step down. We're very respectful of privacy from open source perspective and all this sort of thing. But, I suspect when we see these giant chunks of Windows and Linux users, in our usage data, that a lot of that is, folks that are deploying PowerShell in CI/CD environments and on pull request time and all that sort of thing. Nice.
Chicken Man says, going back to your comment about integrating or embedding PowerShell 7.2 to golden images, from a sysadmin perspective, that will be fantastic because it will allow them to deploy faster. So I think that validates your approach into trying to make it more available and also help with the adoption, because people like, do I go with 7, do I go with 5, which one should I support, and whatever. So that's a great validation there from our audience. Someone's asking,
that is one of those ones, Christos, where there's always a couple top requests where you're going, we know there's some folks that want this, there's some folks that want that. This is one of those ones where you're like, I don't know anyone that doesn't want this one. It's the first thing everybody asks me for. Like, it used to be like the AD commandlets and the Azure commandlets working, and now it's like, we just want it on the box. It's like, I know. We're gonna get there. I promise.
Chicken Man says, I love how good PowerShell is at converting stuff like JSON to objects.
Yes.
So you can poke at it. That's a good point.
Yes, quickly. Convert from JSON. I mean, even if you're using the Azure CLI, let's say, this is like a great scenario you see all the time. Azure CLI in a lot of cases emits big blocks of JSON, right? And it's all exactly the data you need, but it's a big old JSON block. And you can use stuff like JQ. That's fine. We have plenty of folks that love and use JQ, but the arguments can sometimes be a little cryptic, and sometimes you get a thing where then you got to go filter. You got to learn JQ in order to filter through JQ versus PowerShell. As soon as you have something as an object, you're just using like primitive PowerShell knowledge, right? Hey, here's how I get the members on an object. Here's how I access a property. Here's how I access a member function, etc. If you can just go from JSON to that generic object representation, you can do whatever you want with the object, format it as a table, bing, bom, boop, and you got all your Azure goodness from the JSON right there in PowerShell. So that's I'm glad people are using it that way. And like I said, it's interesting to see, even you got folks that like prefer the AZ CLI, but then they're using it in PowerShell with the JSON commandlets. It's like, it's very mix and match. You do what you like.
A couple
so
of
I'm curious.
Go on.
In WSL, so like I use PowerShell on Windows and WSL and use Bash and ZSH, but how much do you see people using PowerShell in WSL? Like I see there's plenty of use for using PowerShell on like a Linux server, right? So for build server or even production server, whatever. But how much do you see people using it, like in WSL2 as their main sort of environment for scripting in Linux?
It's funny because depending on who you talk to, like I sometimes get the inverse of that question, which is like I can understand why you'd want to use it as an interactive dev tool, but like, why do I need to deploy it to my servers, like to do server, so you get like it's just funny, kind of dependent on which world you're living in. But we see a lot of usage in WSL. I think there's lots of folks that, one of the big things that WSL brings is the entire GNU tool set, right? Yeah. Which is huge. Like we've shipped we've shipped BSD tar in Windows. We've shipped curl in Windows. We've shipped
OpenSSH.
OpenSSH, yeah, that was a project that I PM'd for a number of years. Yeah, we've shipped OpenSSH in Windows. So, we're starting to get to that kind of core tool set but nothing ever comes close to all of GNU Linux user space, right? And that's why we did WSL as a company in the first place, because we knew that there's just some folks that are going to be like, there's this one thing missing. It's in Ubuntu. I just want the one little thing. So, okay, here's all of Ubuntu, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, folks want to go and use, they want to use LS, the GNU LS, and then they want to go and use PowerShell after that. That's extremely common. We see a lot of it in our telemetry, where folks are running the Windows Linux kernel that is as WSL reports it or whatever. It's very common, and I think it's for a lot of the same reasons that you guys already been citing that you would want to use it in the first place, which is just like, hey, I want to move between these two spaces. One of the things that I do want to just rep real quick, I'm gonna try and see how fast I can pull this up here. Do you drop links in your chat and stuff like that, Christos? Is that
absolutely? Yeah,
that's fair to do. Oh man, I totally blanked on his name, but there's a guy. I'll find it as we get talking here. But there's a guy who works on the command line team who published a blog post on the command line blog, basically about how they projected all of the GNU tools from WSL into PowerShell in a non-WSL run space. Ooh. So in other words, like it goes and collects all of the commands that are available within WSL,
right,
and projects like wrapper functions into your local PowerShell command, so you can use them inside of pipelines that are not inside of WSL. So like, I want to use GNU LS, I guess. Okay, I can like type LS or whatever his special invocation is for things that exist in both spaces. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to come up with a better example. Let's say it's wget. Yeah. I really like wget. So okay, I type wget. Boom, and then I can pipe straight to, some Windows command, and it's actually going to, under the hood, call bash-c with that wget, get the text back, pipe it back up to Windows, and then like send it out. So that's really cool. And then based on that, he also had done some work around the tab completion. So there's something called PS Unix completers, where we actually just put this logic into a module. PS Unix util completers. I don't know. Oh no, that's what we call it now, right? Microsoft.PowerShell.Unix completers. So the idea here is on both Windows and Linux, if you use a WSL command that's available, or if you use a bash command, specifically bash, that's available to you from wherever you're sitting, we will use bash's tab completion function for tab completion in PowerShell. So if I use like Docker and then I go tab, like in bash, it's going to go container, service, node, whatever. PowerShell, you need like you got to bring along a module that like re-implements all that tab completion logic in PowerShell. What we'll do is we'll go, if bash has got a way to complete, like if we don't have a way to complete this and we're going to our default completer or whatever, we're just going to go ask bash to complete it for us. And then we'll pipe back what the the completion options are. So things like that. It's just like we just want to get to a point where like there's nothing you're missing. Like it's but
okay. So on that then, kind of I guess elephant in the room maybe. So the whole like WSL Windows file system stuff like that. The speed there has been. It can be sometimes an issue, right? Like if I go do an npm run or an npm start on a project from bash that's hosted that's in the Windows file system, it's orders of magnitude slower than say doing it on the bash file system directly, and vice versa, right? Same PowerShell. Right. And I had heard that maybe there were some improvements coming. Like, have you heard anything about making that better? Because
they are beyond preview and GA'd, my friend. They are the big shift there is from WSL v1 to WSL v2. And I'm hoping that you haven't switched to V2 yet if you're still experiencing those problems, because it was largely sort of the raison d'etre, the reason for existence of WSL v2 was those file system problems. And so basically they moved from using a platform abstraction layer in software at the kernel level to using a VM-based solution that, you know, where the file system's already been a lot more optimized. You can upgrade your existing WSL installs with a special WSL upgrade command. I'm sure if you all go out there and search for WSL v2, yes, right up here at the top, there's an awesome piece of documentation from the WSL team that will tell you how to set your distribution version to WSL 1 or 2, and that will, you know, you have to have some Hyper-V components or some sort of virtualization platform stuff installed, and you may have to go flip a switch in the BIOS or something like that, but that should alleviate most, if not all, of those problems.
Yeah, I mean WSL2. So I've used that for a long time now.
Damn it!
Pretty much
okay,
since
that didn't help
since
you. You guys can cut me off when I go on.
No, it's okay.
It's like,
no, but it's good information for people who haven't moved yet. No, and it's absolutely significantly better than WSL1.
Yeah.
There's still a bit of a slowdown between, like, when you're accessing files across the blood-brain barrier, I guess we want to call it that. But I had heard, maybe it was like last summer, maybe, that there were still a few like sort of outstanding performance things that were being worked on, and I think that's the thing that's holding me back from switching back and forth between them all the time. So I end up doing PowerShell with Windows stuff and do Bash with stuff that's in Linux, and just kind of leave them still separated. So,
well, and this is kind of why I love the, like, going all the way back, bringing it around to like the remote VS Code feature. It's like, if you love Linux as the platform, and I know like a lot of people go, well, I'm not always internet connected, but even then, you can run a super thin, GUI-less Linux VM on your local box and then have this remote connection to it with SSH. And the thing I kind of like about that is, you know, preserve state, right? Like, God knows, like, I mean, I even told Christos, like, when, you know, we were starting up the call, he dropped me a link to join, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to wait for, you know, my 900,000 Edge tabs to finish loading, because God forbid I lose my session that I had from the last time I booted my machine. You know, that's half of my to-do list is in tabs.
I will stop you there. Did you know that now you can mount those tabs as file system?
I saw a Hacker News post on this the other day, but I didn't click on it. What is the? Because that's such a PowerShell thing to do. Like, we've got the Azure Provider Drive, right, where you can like navigate your Azure resources as a file system. That was like the original. But, no, I should check that out. I'm loving the vertical tabs feature in Edge myself. It is like, I am, because I just, all I do is I throw them over there. I don't think about it. And then I click the little like show me the pin thing. And then I've got it pinned just for when I want to go clean out tabs. And just the ability to like read down and just go nope, and close them all up. Like, that is perfection.
Yeah.
And you can switch them back and forth. Like, if you just want to put it there when you do that so you can read them. Because you know when they get so thin and you can't tell what they are anymore, the favicons disappear.
Yeah,
the favicon disappears. You just get that little sliver.
I'm not that bad with my browsers. I tend to clear them out very frequently. I've got a new we got a new motto for PowerShell. I think Yanisco did a better job in marketing than I did. He says, "The power of the cell is PowerShell."
Poetic, very simple.
I mean, sold, right? Right.
Sold. Where are my stickers?
You know what? Yeah, we should order some stickers. Couple of more questions. Somebody was asking whether you can now run PowerShell in notebooks. Do you know if that's?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, man. You want to talk about, you know, cans of worms about like, hey, which do I pick, tool A or tool B or tool C or tool B? Yeah, no, notebooks are freaking awesome. For those that don't know what notebooks are, they're basically rich, annotated, executable documents, right? So imagine that your PowerShell script, you know, had a bunch of markdown in it, and that you could actually render that markdown in line with script blocks, and that you could execute those script blocks in line with the rest of the markdown, right? That's essentially what we're looking at here with notebooks. So there's a ton of innovation happening in that space. There's a zillion different language runtimes and implementations for these things. To kind of unpack where PowerShell currently lives, we're integrated in what's called the .NET Interactive kernel. .NET Interactive is an implementation of a .NET kernel for something called Jupyter. That's Jupyter because it has its roots in Python, but now supports kind of these arbitrary pluggable kernels. So .NET Interactive, you can use it with Jupyter or Jupyter compatible runtimes, which includes a lot of like cloud hosted code spaces kind of scenarios where, hey, I'm going to project this kernel up and then I'm going to execute this notebook stuff, in a web GUI or whatever on someone else's, cloud dollars. But basically, that they've integrated PowerShell there. So if you go to github.com/.net/interactive, there's tons of info on how to get started with that thing. There's Docker containers, cloud hosted solutions, demos, all this kind of stuff. But that actually means that you can mix and match .NET and PowerShell. Again, more than you already could.
More.
Right, and I think they support F# in that kernel as well. Like, you can just really go crazy. But that thing's awesome, and that's highly compatible with Jupyter, which is a bunch of cloud-hosted solutions out there. It does mean that you basically have to use a Jupyter GUI in order to write the thing, because what it spits out as an IPNB, it's the IPython notebook, is a giant JSON or some kind of schematized text of all this different stuff about where the script blocks are and how the file's formatted and all this stuff, right? It's not really a human readable text document. So when you load the thing up, you got to load it into something like Jupyter. So, but Jupyter is everything and is highly compatible. So if you're in that ecosystem, you like those tools, great. That's what you should use.
Sweet.
If you don't, we also support, at least in Visual Studio Code Insiders, I think it's going to make its way into non-insiders pretty soon. You got to pick up the PowerShell preview extension as well, but it's something called PowerShell Notebook Mode in VS Code, which is literally what I was describing earlier. Hey, here's a bunch of PowerShell script, and then where you leave comments, those comments are rendered as Markdown. So, if I put my first $, after that, everything after that is going to get rendered as Markdown. So I can put headings in, code blocks, any kind of rich formatting. And what that means is if I'm not in PowerShell Notebook mode and I hand this script to someone who doesn't have VS Code or this extension installed, it's still going to execute as a PowerShell script, and they can still read that Markdown as plain text inside the document, right? Also means I can share that file between CI/CD environments and my local dev environment, right? I don't have to sort of create this system where PS1's getting injected to an IPNB and then also sent over to my testing infrastructure or whatever. So there's just sort of trade-offs there. Both are very well supported. I've used both. Notebooks are awesome. It's great for like help desk runbooks, right? You're walking through, okay, try this code. Okay, here's why we did that. Here's what to look for. Okay, now try this code. It's great for learning and education. You're seeing this way more. People host repos full of tutorials that let you kind of play along. It's great for testing stuff on someone else's cloud dollar you're not paying for. All kinds of stuff.
Free stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember doing Jupyter a lot when I did a lot of work in Spark, and of course at the time it was like Python and Scala and whatever, and so being able to just do this just sort of arbitrarily, like it seemed to be very data focused when I was doing it a couple years ago, and now that it seems to be just sort of arbitrary and available for anything, right? Is a better way to do .NET Interactive and stuff. That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, we support all that like data plotting, plotting graphs and doing scatter plots and this, that, and the other, rendering circles and stuff like that. We have all that support in there, but I have no illusion that like that is not what the majority of PowerShell folks want to be doing with this thing. It's like we want to support it for completeness sake because it's a Jupyter world, but the reality is it's a totally different scenario here that we're supporting than that data world, and I think Jupyter has a long way to go from an adoption standpoint in terms of like there. I just think people haven't realized. That sounded negative on Jupyter. I just mean I think people haven't realized just how much potential there is there, and the Jupyter folks have kind of always been very data oriented, and so there's a bunch of people going, I'm not data oriented, so I don't care. But really, it's this model. It just makes so much sense to go. Here's a piece of documentation. Like we already do this in docs at Microsoft.com, right? You're reading some docs. and then you go, oh, there's some PowerShell example, or AZ CLI example, run,
run
and
it.
then it just spins out a Cloud Shell and runs it. Like that's basically what a notebook is, but like just abstracted to the whole world. Like they're just awesome. They're more awesome comments, basically. So it's like, why would you not want to? Or it's an executable Word doc. Like it's awesome no matter how you cut it.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned PS Cones. Do you know that?
PS Cones, yeah. So PS Cones, that's PSKOANS.
Yep.
Was done by a community member of ours, Vex32. Joel Sallow, major contributor to PowerShell. Major shout out. He's an awesome guy. Works for Chocolatey. And basically he built it as an open source module to help people interactively learn how to use PowerShell.
Nice.
Right. So this is, you load this thing up and it sort of guides you. It's a very interactive sort of, self-guided kind of tour through PowerShell. And it's Cones. It's very, there's some existential aspect there. It's very introspective, I will say.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's great. And for those of you that do learn better by just getting your hands dirty and just using the damn thing, PS Cones is where it's at, right? I still recommend, 30 days of lunches, PowerShell and 30 days of lunches for folks that like books. I think from a video perspective, going back to Jeffrey Snover and Jason Helmick's original 3.0, learning sessions is still awesome because they still go through all the core fundamentals of PowerShell. But there's stuff on Pluralsight now as well that's more modernized. There's tons of great content on YouTube. So definitely, in terms of learning PowerShell, like at this point, the hard part should be motivation and time. The content definitely exists and much of it is free. So if you need specifics, you can @ me on Twitter. Which did I ever drop did you have a Twitter? Did you drop my handle somewhere or something so folks
We
can...
have it. I dropped it as part of the introduction to the show, but we will. You know what? In fact, I will reach out to you after the show, and we'll grab some of these links so we can share them.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you've been taking good notes.
Because
your Twitter is also right next to your face, so
on the live stream. So
yeah.
We,
okay, yeah. I'm not actually looking at the real one. I was like, is it? Did I? I was like, I thought maybe there was something in my room, like I had something on the wall, or like it was on a sticker on my shirt or something. I immediately just started like where it's next to my head, floating in this light here.
No, we'll make sure that we share the links as part of the YouTube video. So for people that were not able to join us live, they can always catch up offline. Now I'm gonna trigger JP with this question, but YAML. Does PowerShell support and render YAML?
Yeah, so this is a great. You should have given me this question as a lead-in to me talking about the platform and the ecosystem, because this is a great example here, right? Folks right off the bat were like, "Hey, let's add YAML support to PowerShell. We got JSON. Why not add YAML?" Well, couple issues right off the bat. First of all, there was no definitive YAML.NET library like there was for JSON back then, right? JSON had Newtonsoft. Everybody used Newtonsoft. .NET team used Newtonsoft. Now they've got their own implementation that we may move to at some point, but still Newtonsoft gold standard, right?
Right.
YAML, not so clear cut. So all of a sudden now we're trying to, are we going to pick winners here? Are we going to say that that's the one .NET library? There were trade-offs with both. Okay, let's wait and see. Then at some point you get to a point where, folks are starting to go, hey, this PowerShell package is getting a little big. Like, you guys are really putting the kitchen sink in there, right? And this is why another initiative for 2021, we want to look at, hey, how can we actually allow people to remove things from PowerShell when they don't need them, right? How can I build a package of PowerShell that's got only what I need, like a golden image or a distribution of PowerShell itself? Because, if you're CI/CD, you don't need the interactive subsystem. You don't need remoting necessarily. You don't need all these things that we ship all as one giant monolithic package. So as we're looking at that, we're going, well, we don't really want to add new dependencies, right? Like if we have to pull in an entire .NET library for 1-2 commandlets, it's not great. But what are people's alternative? Well, the alternative is to just install the PS YAML module from PowerShell Gallery because it's very well maintained. The community does a phenomenal job. It brings your library dependencies. You only grab it if you need it. You could ship it in your golden images if you want. And we really want that to be the central model going forward, right? So one day if people say, well, it's so critical to have YAML built in, like I need YAML before I can even run PowerShell get. Okay, well maybe we should go and put YAML commandlets in there, right? But the reality is we need to be coming up with ways that we can move those commandlets that are already in PowerShell out to the gallery, right? So that you've got more of this kind of node situation where, hey, you're not,
Pick and choose what you need rather than
exactly. And it doesn't, we don't want to go to the extreme where you get the left pad kind of problem, right? That Node has, where you're shipping like a math.floor function in its own library or something crazy. But yeah, it's that's where we're trying to go. And so yes, like YAML is supported by the lovely YAML modules in the gallery, and you probably won't see it added to PowerShell anytime soon. But we're going to take a more aggressive kind of hardline stance, I think, going forward in terms of, hey, we want to keep this innovation in the gallery where it's accessible to everyone and it's not intruding on everyone, right?
Right. It's been great, man. I mean, we've learned so many things, and I'm pretty sure that we can fill 5 hours of more of you.
We definitely
here.
can, and I'm going to come back, and you've got a whole rest of your show to go run. I've already run way over, I'm sure.
I'm not kicking you out. I'm not saying you have to go, right?
Oh,
but,
no.
Just want to, I'm conscious of your time, and
it's
we
fine.
Definitely...
It's all downhill from here, so,
I don't know.
Start 2021 strong and fall off a cliff quickly, so,
Yeah.
It's
we start with the
2022.
highlight, and then everything is just down.
A sequel to 2020.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming.
People love being here. Yeah, people love being here, and we'll have you more.
No, this is great. And if I could just plug myself here a little bit real quick, we do PowerShell community call on the third Thursday of every month. You can get to that at aka.ms/PS community call. All the info's there. We've got links to past calls, transcripts, question and answers. We do post an issue in that repo on the third Thursday, or hopefully before the third Thursday of every month, for you to post questions ahead of time, especially if you can't make the call. It is a Teams live event, so you can join and ask questions in the margin and all that sort of thing. But you get me, you get the rest of the PMs, you get the whole PowerShell engineering team, or most of them at least, they're folks that are around joining that call. You get to access questions directly. We have, go through all of our latest releases, blog posts, previews, all that good stuff. So definitely, if you like this format, we'll be back, but also, come say hi to us on the PowerShell turf.
Yeah, and we'll share all these links as part of the YouTube video. So again, people don't have to worry about catching the chat and trying to find them. We love having you here. It was fantastic. We learned so many things, and we look forward to having you again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christos, and JP. Thank you so much. Everything ran great, and I'm really looking forward to coming back.
Thank you.
And catching your next episode here. I gotta see what's going on with the rest of it. I'll catch the real stream.
Sounds good, man. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, folks. Until next time. See you soon.
Yeah. Happy Monday.
See ya.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back at 5
with some coding. Yeah.
Okay, we're back.
We are back. Back with the
So what are you gonna do for us today?
What am I going to do? Oh, you can see the screen. Nice. Well, I think we discussed about this before, but one of the things that we've done in the past and we're going to do today as well is taking older apps and moving them into the latest when it comes to identity. So in this instance, you might see this nice green notification at the top. Let me zoom in a little bit. It says, we found potential security vulnerabilities in your dependencies. So about a month ago, I got a nice email from our Microsoft IT team saying one of your GitHub repos contains confidential information. In effect, you screwed up, so go and fix it ASAP and let us know about it. It's like, oh my God, I must have done something awful. And I had done something awful in one of my files. I think it was in the service or the web app. I had my client secrets. I think it was in the app, in the web app. And I was like, oh damn. Obviously that app registration is way too old. I wiped it out a long time ago, so technically there was nothing there to worry about. But nonetheless, I removed it eventually. But nonetheless, I think if I go back into history, you can see it. I was like, damn, I screwed up, so I went and fixed it. But then I thought, you know what, that's a very old project. And by old, I mean 3-year-old. So that's a .NET Core project that I did at some point for some customer. And I think I even stole some sample that we had. So I forked that and I copied it across. And I was thinking, what is it going to take this older project and migrate it to the Microsoft Identity.web? Because all the authentication code I had, and there's a lot of authentication code there, even for .NET Core, was a bit of a mess and it was way too complex. And I thought, what would be the value of me upgrading to that project? So I thought that we should do that today. We can take the old code, which I have here in front of me. So let me close this one down. See what we don't need, and then see what we can do. I wish your stream was 1080. Are we not streaming at 1080?
Yeah, it's at 1080 out. I don't know if something's going on.
So the text was not so blurry. Is my text blurry?
Oh, it is. It's interesting. It says max quality is 720. I don't know why that is.
Is it my settings?
No, I think it might be a restream thing. Let me see.
So we fix it on the fly?
I will try to fix it on the fly.
Okay, folks, thanks for letting us know for the quality. Is it just now or was it before? I mean, before we're not setting any screens, so I wonder if that was the case. We're not sharing any code. But when you stream this one, JP, it's better, isn't it?
No, I mean, we're at 10,000K per second and 1080 going to restream. I don't know why it's only going 720 to Twitch.
Is it a Twitch setting? No, we have max capabilities in Twitch, right? In the stream manager anyway.
We don't normally. It usually is 1080. I don't know why it's different today. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't see an option in.
Do you want to share your screen? I wonder if you share your screen, it would be better. Do you want
No,
to
I mean
see what
I don't.
No?
I'm saying that in the Twitch doesn't show a 1080 option. It doesn't show the source option, which normally is normally in video quality it'll say 1080p 60 source, and I don't see 1080p 60. I only see 720p 60. Although it doesn't say source there either. Okay. So I don't know. I wonder if we're getting maybe a bunch of people are streaming today. Like I don't know. It seems kind of weird. I'm looking at it on YouTube, and on YouTube, it looks like it is. On YouTube, it is 1080p 60. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know why it's. Maybe just make your text bigger, and if you have a light theme, that might make it easier to read since the resolution is low. I don't know.
Let's change the theme. Oh, what was it? I don't remember how I changed my theme now. Is it
Twitch is also telling us that our average stream bitrate is too high, so maybe that's why they're maybe that's why they're doing it. Maybe 10,000 10,000K is too big, or they're just having issues today. I don't know.
Could be. How do I change my theme again? Theme. Let's do.
Let me I'll lower the bitrate while we're here. So
Solarized light. There you go. Is that better? Let us know.
I can't change it.
Oh no.
Can't change it while I'm here.
No.
Oh yeah, I can. It's in the encoder.
Okay.
So let me change it to. Let me just drop the bitrate a little bit and see if that gets it to 1080p.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's definitely, that's a new one because we're normally in 1080p.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
indeed.
Anyway,
Well, thanks,
okay.
thanks for letting us know. I think the white theme is doing slightly better work there.
Maybe zoom in another click.
Really? Damn it.
Well, not into the whole interface, just in the
Okay.
code window.
Just a code window. How about that?
Well, that's smaller than it was. So
Is it small?
the code window isn't any bigger.
How do you zoom in on the window again? Is it control?
Control
Scroll.
mouse wheel.
I am.
Or
I think
control.
I think I'm maxed out.
Control plus, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. Whatever.
Control plus does the whole thing.
People
Anyway.
can see it on YouTube, so that's fine.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Not our fault though. So this old application had quite a bit of code here. And you can see it's using the old add Azure AD, add authentication, add Azure AD, and then there were quite a few files looking at the authentication. We had controllers, we had an account controller dedicated to the sign in and sign out, doing all the work. We had some extensions. So there was an Azure AD authentication builder extension that was doing all the hard lifting. Then there was an Azure AD options that was taking the config settings and was serializing into a DTO so we could use it later. There was a utils class as well for caching because the older OIDC provider for .NET did not provide a cache, so you had to create your own caching provider. So I was like, man, that's a lot of code. I couldn't even remember writing all that. And I was thinking, how much is it going to take to actually, look, it's even using Bower back in the good old days of Bower stuff and bundle config. So with that, I thought, you know what, let's do a few changes here. Obviously, one of the things that we want to change is the target framework. So we're going to target .NET 5. And then we don't need to use secrets anymore because we don't want to store anything in the local secrets. There is an app registration, which let me just go into that very, very quickly. So here is my, this one, where's my browser? So many browser windows. There you go, found it. So here is my Azure AD. Let's zoom in, and I think I have an app registration that corresponds to that code. So to find that, we have to go into the app settings, to JSON. I don't have my client ID here. Interesting. Which one is this one? This one is the web app. Okay. So we'll need to add one for the web app. So for that to work, let me see which one I want to use. I had already one there somewhere. Let me find that. So we want a client ID is this one here. There you go. And if I open my browser now, we'll find it here. I hope. Oh, you know what? That's not the right tenant. I'm using a different tenant. That's why. So let me just come out here. Is it this one? Not the Contoso. That's the one. Nope, I need to remember my password. Let me find that very, very quickly. Man, I feel rusty after 2 weeks off and not touching my computer. I need to remember where things are. That's my password for this one. I have a crazy long password somewhere in my password manager. That's where it comes from. And now I have two-factor authentication after a very long time. 515056. Yes, we're good with that. Azure Active Directory. So this is my test tenant. In case you didn't know, you can spin up a test tenant for Office 365 that gives you data and sample data for graph and what have you, and also gives the ability to test things like this, like creating authentication and authorization at the back of your code. So here, let me find my app registration. No, nice. I need to change that. Oh God, I got doxed. I doxed myself.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah.
Nobody can
Zoom
read
in
it.
more.
Yeah.
Can you read it now? Okay. So we have the MVC web. This is an MVC application that we're working on. And if we look at the authentication, it's already been configured to use the localhost 5001 sign-in OIDC. It's a web app. No access or ID tokens, obviously, because we're not using implicit flow. And the app registration is ready to go. I think there is an API permission here as well, so we can speak to our backend API. That's our MVC API, which we'll go and check in a bit. But it has one scope only, and that's access as user, so we can securely access our API. So here, why is it yellow? Anyway, here let's go to the web app first. Let's start with the web app. So first and foremost, let's hide the utils and the extensions and the controllers. We'll fix this in a bit. So what we need here obviously is to target .NET 5. So let's go into the CS Prods. CS Prods here. Net 5.0, isn't it? What? No. Autocomplete. Failure. Net 5.0, if I remember correctly. I don't think I need the user secrets, and I don't need the web project access level key. So let's simplify this. ASP.NET Core all, and then we have CLI references. We can leave this there for now. That needs to be changed actually, isn't it? The ASP.NET Core reference. Let me see, what that should be is 5.0. Actually, no, you know what? In .NET 5, that's not required. But we do need a package reference. So we need a package reference include, and we have a couple of classes that we need to include. We'll start with a Microsoft Identity.web, so Microsoft.identity.web, and that'll be version. I think the latest is 1.4.0, is that all right? Which got released just before Christmas. And with that, we got better logging for Microsoft Identity.web. Package reference, next include. We need to add one for the UI. So this gives us the core middleware stuff that we need to work with. And the UI package is the one that allows us to navigate to the sign in and sign out. It brings the views that we need for working with the account management or the identity. So Microsoft.identity.web.ui. I think they match in version, they should match in version. So here we have 1.4.0 in quotes. There you have it. And then there are two more packages that we need to bring in. One is the JWT Bearer, and the other one is the OpenID Connect for 5.0. So there you have it. And I don't think I need to include anything else. Code generation tools. Maybe we'll leave that one. And for that, I think the version is 4.2. I think it moved on a little bit, so let's see what the version should be like. It's 2.0.4. So in 4 years, we went up in 4 minor. Is that the minor version? The last digit there? Should be right. 2.0.4. And obviously if I save that one, then it will, if it tries to build, then it will fail miserably. Restore, let's restore these. There will be a lot of problems here, 59. But let's ignore them for now, we don't have to worry about that. We will go and fix things as we go. So next thing that we need to fix is the app settings. Let's slightly fix these. Obviously login on Microsoft.com, that's right. But the domain is not correct, so we have cmatchkas, which is my domain. If you're wondering where I got this from, it came from here inside my domain. So my overview for my Active Directory. Where's the overview? Then app registrations and endpoints. Where do I get my? It's up there. cmatchkas on Microsoft.com. So we have that, which is correct. Then we need to add the tenant ID, which we need to go and get. Then we have the client ID and the callback path, which should be right. I can remove the client secret. I don't need that anymore. So the tenant ID, let's go and grab that from our app registration. So it was MVC Web, I think. Yeah, MVC Web. The directory tenant ID is here, so let's copy that across. And then we have the client ID, which again is part of the app registration. So back into our app registration, we grab that, stick into the code. And just to make sure, callback path is signing OIDC. And here, you know what? Comments in JSON don't work. So save this one, but what do we need to do? Just make sure that this is correct. So if we go back to our app registration, again, we've already shown that, but to make sure it's the sign in OIDC as part of the direct URI. This is where we will receive our tokens back. Okay, so that is that. Let's make sure that we are, let me hide that. So for now, I don't need to change anything else. Let's keep it at that. Now back into the startup.cs. This is where all the magic is going to take place. We can probably remove quite a few things here. So if I look, some of the namespace references can go. We don't need these because these are the old ones. If I can just do that. And we need Microsoft.identity.web, and we'll need the UI as well. Obviously, we're not using them right now, so they're commented out. And in here, we need to remove the add authentication. So the services.add Microsoft web app authentication, and we'll reference the configuration. Yep, we'll reference the configuration there. Now, if you leave it like that, then the assumption is that, why is this not resolved? What's the problem here? We did do a restore, didn't we? Process P, sorry. Terminal. .NET restore. Should have restored everything. So why is this one grayed out? Does not contain a definition for @Microsoft Web App Authentication. Huh. Microsoft Identity. Why do you not like me? What does it say? Yes, I am using Microsoft Identity Web. Do you think it's oh, there you go. It resolved now, which is nice. Let me hide this for now so we can have more space. Now, the thing here is that by default for now, Microsoft Identity Web is actually using implicit flow. So if we were to run this right now, obviously it's not going to run, but it will break because it doesn't know how to, it's not using the code response type, right? So for that, for now, we have to configure that and explicitly add this information. So to do that, we need to configure it. So it's services.configure. But I think this is going to go away. Is that correct, JP? This is going to be resolved with subsequent releases, right? Options. JP's busy over there.
No, so there's a question. I guess we'll take a second. We'll answer it from BSD guys. So the question's around session and management of those sessions. And so the thing about it is the session itself is specific to a machine, specific to a server, right? And so any of the in-memory session stuff is sticky to that machine. So if you've got multiple nodes, or if you have ephemeral nodes, like if you're hosted in App Service or Elastic Beanstalk or something, those aren't going to persist. And so there are some load balancers that will do things like sticky sessions where they will always try to push you to a specific node, the last node that you use, so that your data would be there. But the most reliable way to do it is to take your session data and put it into somewhere more persistent. So you could use like SQL, you could use a Redis cache, you could use any number of different things to store the session data. And then what essentially gets dropped on the user's box is a cookie, and that cookie has the session ID in it. So if you're beyond development, if you're not just working locally or on a single node, and even if you are on a single node, memory session is not going to be reliable. So you'd have to essentially you'll need to rehydrate that session at any given point, because at any time it could go away if the app pool recycles or if the web server itself recycles. So what we would suggest is, if you need session, because there may also be an argument that you don't necessarily need a session, you may want to use something different. If you're using session and you need it to persist and you're in multiple nodes, use something out of band like SQL or Redis or whatever. When we're using ASP.NET Identity, which is essentially what identity.web does, when you're using ASP.NET Identity, you'll get a cookie, and that cookie can be used. And that cookie has all the data it needs. So there's no extra data server side that it would use to look it up. So once you sign in, you're signed in, and then that cookie's got enough data to sort of rehydrate your user session, if you want to call it session, because it's session with a capital S is a very different thing than just a lowercase s of the concept of a user using your app over a period of time. So at the bare minimum, you don't need session just to get a user signed in, because ASP.NET Identity will use a cookie for that. But if you do have session data that you need to store, or if you're caching tokens, for example, to access other APIs, those are all going to need some kind of external out-of-band session to do it. And then the cookies themselves, so historically, anybody who's familiar with IIS would probably remember the days of having to synchronize machine keys so that your cookies could be read by any nodes in the farm. And services like App Service, that's all done for you. But of course, you would still need to do that at the base level, just so that those cookies can be reused. Although I'm not sure we still have to do that in ASP.NET Core, but Yeah, so that's the long answer to a short question, I guess. Caparino's curious as to what theme you're using, by the way.
That's a very good question. Do I remember? I don't remember. I have a file, preferences, settings, and then I have in terms of theme, I use an extension for the theme.
Yeah. Robertables says the theme is called Never Use Again V2.
Ah, nice. Thank you. It was where's the? Sorry. So down here.
I do like the font.
Thank you. I have bearded theme. It's an extension, so it comes with quite a few colors. Right now, I went to Solarized Light, I think, because we wanted to make sure that it's better. But I can change it to other light themes, like this one. There you go. What about that? Bluish. So you can also call it from there, but obviously I like my dark theme that I had configured before, but it wasn't as visible because of the low res or low stream at 720, so we went with a light theme for now. But thank you for the judgment on my theme. love you guys as well.
Robertables says you've made it worse.
I made it worse?
Pull back.
Pull back. Okay, right.
The judgment is free. That's very true.
Yeah, true.
There's lots of it. Yep. 1,000 comedians out of work, and this guy tries to be funny.
What was it? Solarized. So let's go with the light default, the one that comes with VS Code. How about that? Now you can judge VS Code theme makers, not me, for choosing it. Right?
What font is that? That is a rather unique font. What is that?
These are rather unique fonts. So let's go into the font. It's a Roboto Mono, Cascadia Code, and Source Code Pro.
Okay.
I took that from a couple of people in the cloud
Roboto,
advocacy team.
Roboto, that was the Android one. That was the big system font in Android for a long time.
So you know your font history, don't you?
I'm very particular about fonts. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very particular. I like these that are quite round and easy to read. Obviously, I don't know if they're easy to read over the stream, so if you don't like them, let me know. I can change them for the next time. Obviously, I'm not as fancy as JP, but everybody loves his theme. Nobody loves my theme. I don't feel hurt.
No, that's
right
okay.
now.
I mean, you can use the theme I'm using too. Just accept that it's
I want to be unique.
that it's better.
Hey, I accept that it's nice. Better, it's
It's electric.
Is it,
anyway.
it is electric, yeah.
Sorry to derail you. Back to what you were doing.
No, it's fine. So right now we have the Microsoft Identity Web Authentication, which will allow us to authenticate against Azure AD using the current settings. However, I don't know. Should we configure the calling the downstream API now, or should we leave it for later once we prove that this is signing in? I don't know. I haven't run the app in a long time, so I don't know what it's going to do. But
get small bits working first.
Get small bits working, exactly. So next, services.rmbc is not the latest way of doing that. So there's services.add, what's it, controllers with views. And then we want to add session states, 10 data providers. So let me just take that down here. And then at the end, we want to add the add Microsoft Web, it says Microsoft Identity UI, and this might not resolve yet, so let's see what the problem is. Add controllers we've used, data, add Microsoft Identity UI. See, this is where, you don't spell that right? There you go, you map it. 2 Microsofts. And fixed. Voila, services add session, we can leave that there. I think this is iWeb host environment. because it's changed. Environment is development. What does not like here? Does not contain definition is development. Yes, it does. They're lying to me. So use static files, use session should be there. You know what? In production, we should also be using app.use HTS. Here, we want the session, although that comment is not right anymore. What else? Use static files, we want that. We also need redirection. Use HTTPS redirection. These are default that come out from the standard template, so it's not that like .NET 5 added all these things, or over the years we added these things. Routing, we need routing, yeah, we need routing. And then we have the use session, static files, use authentication, obviously we need that one, and use authorization. Typo. And I think that's changed a little bit as well. So that will be use endpoints, then endpoints, or roots, whatever you want to call it. Nope. Nope. Endpoints dot map controller root, because we're using controllers, and we can use the default, and that's not a template anymore, it is a pattern. I think that can stay the same. We don't need to change that one. So that, I just think that this one doesn't like it. Why? Wonder if it's some red herring from IntelliSense.
You put a lot of trust in IntelliSense.
I do indeed.
I don't know. It doesn't seem to work half the time for me, so I guess I've grown to not use it anymore.
We have a duplicate here. We don't want that anymore. So as you can see, we've removed quite a bit of code, but not as much as it seems like it, because obviously a lot of the code that does the authentication is hidden away in other things. So let's go and rip apart some bits that we don't need. First, we don't need the account controller, right? Because that is built into the Microsoft Addendum Web. So from a controller perspective, we don't need that anymore because it will be handled by the Microsoft Addendum Web. So let's delete that one. Yes, move to this, cycle bin. Then in the extensions, we don't need this anymore. This is the authentication builder. So a lot of the things that we just configured here, and you'll see there's a lot more code. Wow, we have graph in there. I didn't even know we were using. Look at that, even AAD graph, not even Microsoft graph. Response type, token and code. So all the things that Microsoft Addendum Web hides from us and provides by default out of the box, we had to configure in the past ourselves. So there's 85 lines of code that can go right now. So let's delete that one. That goes in the bin. In here as well, in the extensions, we had the Azure AD options. This is just for mapping the configuration settings inside app settings.json into Poco class, but since Microsoft Addendum Web maps to that directly, we don't really need that. So let's go and wipe this one as well. In fact, let's wipe the whole folder. Yes, we don't need you anymore. So controllers are now much more simple. Models, error view model and to-do item. We'll look at these later because we are pulling that information from the API. Nothing the properties. Oh, properties, let's check the default application URIs. That we want 5001.
Hang on.
What?
I'll be right back. So apparently I just got a package from Lithuania. I'll be right back. I don't even know where
What?
Lithuania is. Hang on.
Do you want me to carry on myself? We're still streaming, right? He's gone. Is he gone? Are we taking a break? Let me check my stream to see where we are. No, we are. We are still streaming. So let's move on. No, why they changed this one? Because remember, in the app registration, our web app is configured to use 5001. So if I use their own URI, their own port, it's going to fail miserably. So let's go back into our code. Let me make this bigger as well so people can see what I'm talking about. So 5001 needs to be 5001. So let's change that one to be 5001. So I did that one. What else will I need to change? Did you get your package? Is he back yet? I'm curious now. He's got a package from Lithuania. Did you get your package back? JP? He's not there. I am dying with anticipation. So obviously we're not using IIS Express. We'll be using our default Kestrel. So this is where we need to configure that. But sometimes people tend to override that in the program.cs. So here, I haven't overridden anything. It should be as expected. There you have it. Are you back? Did you get your package?
Yeah, it's from the Build Stuff conference. That conference we did at like 3 a.m. Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Look,
Nice.
There's some chocolate. There's some,
What?
I guess it's Lithuanian chocolate.
How did you get it first? I'm
I'm kind of hungry. Because I'm on the East Coast, so maybe I'm closer.
Dive in. Feel free.
Let's see.
Nothing's stopping you.
Oh, man. I'm hungry, too, because I haven't eaten lunch yet. It looks delicious. Kind of bread. Ooh, it's still soft. Halfway around the world and it's still soft.
You got bread that is soft? I would be worried about that. My wife, like we did some burgers, I don't know, a month and a half ago, right? And we got some burger buns from the supermarket. And my wife opened the bread pan today and she realized that we forgot some of these. And she said to me, they're as good as the first day you got them in, which is extremely worrying. They're soft and nice.
I don't speak Russian, though.
Can you
Marzipan?
use Google Translate?
Marzipan.
Google Translate? Google Translate, man.
Anyway, sorry.
Right.
Continue.
No, it's fine. We have the identity wired up in the startup. We've removed some code that we don't need anymore. There's a utils class that we don't need anymore because Microsoft Identity Web comes with its own caching. So we'll delete that one. See how much code we don't have to worry about anymore. And then the views, I think there's an account which we don't need. I think, if I remember correctly, there's a partial class that there's a partial view that we need to update. But from a views perspective, I don't think we need the access denied and sign out. Let's leave them there for now. I don't think that we're gonna use them anyway. In the shared layout login partial. Now this is where the tick is. The old one had account. I think the new one is Microsoft Identity. Let's find that out because I don't want to double guessing myself. So if we go into GitHub, so Microsoft Identity.web GitHub. No, God, went too fast. GitHub, and I will zoom in. Just give me a second. Oh, it's zoomed in straight away. Okay, so down here, if we go into one of the sample web apps, right? Continue. It's like, oh, that's big. Okay, it's redirecting me. Web app which signs in users, and then obviously my org for now. It's absolutely fine. If we go into our views. Just in case you're wondering where you can find it and how it works, in shared, we have the login partial. So what we could do is just grab that information here. That should be the same as is it a nav item? It is slightly not the same. So maybe we can just copy the whole thing rather than just the thing. There you go. Or should I not? I don't know. Should I? Maybe I'll break my web up. Can't remember what it looks like. So if I thinking
well,
now.
that's the login partial, isn't it?
It is, but oh yeah, it shouldn't make any difference, right? I should just copy paste the new one, just this one.
Did you change the? Are you using like the out of the box ASP.NET theme? Like
yeah,
the
I think so.
Bootstrap based one.
Yeah.
You should be able to just drop this in then.
Let's drop it in. Dropped. And let's highlight the differences here. So instead of Azure, I think, what was it? Azure AD, Control Z. It was account. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was your code, right?
Yep. And then in the controller, we have account. We don't need to have a physical account controller in our file system. It will use the DLL based one to provide that information. And then we have a sign out and a sign in that takes us to the right endpoint, which should be the Azure AD endpoints for signing in and signing out. So we don't need to worry about physical account. I'm just leaving these there. They don't do anything for now. And everything else should be the same. So technically, I think we have everything we need to run the app in terms of changes. Let's do a build. Problems 42, that's a little bit annoying. Maybe I should do a clean first. To do controller type clients does not exist. Okay. Open client. Oh, there you go.
MSAL or ADAL.
ADAL. Yes. Good old days. So what do we do here? Let's see. We have authorize, which should be there. Authentication result. We don't need that anymore. Oh wow, whoa, try. Because we signed in, let's see what the code does. We signed in already in the web, the user object is not, oh, is that the controller? Is that the, no, that's the web app. We're still in the web app, so it's fine. User authentication context, oh wow, that's taking the content, sorry, that's taking the token, so we can go and call into the API. Oh, one more thing here, we don't want to be instantiating this, big no-no, right? So how do we fix this, JP? Remember, we register the HTTP client in the startup, correct?
Yeah, services.add.http client.
Yeah,
And if you're not familiar with HTTP client and .NET, you don't want to instantiate them unless you don't want to instantiate them, because if you put them in a using, which of course is what everybody's told us to do for 400 years when you're using disposable objects, if you wrap them in a using, they get disposed of, but the underlying handle to the underlying handle to the socket does not. So, or sorry, the underlying socket itself doesn't get removed. The handle does. So the socket is still there and open, and it's sitting there in time wait. And if you create too many HTTP clients, you'll end up in a place where you have socket exhaustion. And so on your host, and that causes a bunch of weird behavior. And so what you really want to do is there are some newer things in .NET Core for adding an HTTP client factory to the services collection, and then you can inject that client factory and create a new client as you need them. And so by doing doing services.add HTTP client, you're really adding a factory, and then you take the factory and create a client off of that.
So it should be HTTP, should be HTTP.
I think it's IHTTP collection.
Damn you. Yeah, it is. Obviously, we want to inject the, and then that will be HTTP client. See, I even became JP. I did underscore, which is show 1985. See? So that is that. Let me hide that down here. So we need to do a little bit of work here. Now we want to be able to, I don't want the user object. I don't need that. But we do need to acquire a token, right? So we can go and call the API. Now, in the good old days, you had to do all that code here, but we don't have to write anymore because Microsoft Addend.web comes with an iToken acquisition class, right? So private static iToken acquisition, if I can type correctly. Token getter. Ha. Let me resolve that. Token acquisition. Am I missing something? You know, did we miss something from the? Oh, there you go. Interesting. It took a little bit of a while to. There. So the iToken acquisition will do the meaningful for us, and will resolve the token that we need to get as injected here. So let's inject that one here as well. iToken acquisition token. And then down here we do token getter equals token acquisition. Should be it. Why do I not like that? There you go. Okay. Sometimes IntelliSense just freaks me out. So down here in the index, we don't need that anymore. Or we need the client because we want to send the async. So we need to grab the token. Or get token for user async. Simple as that. And then we just need to pass the scopes. And for the scopes, we just need an enumerable string. So new list. Sorry, can type. New list string. And here it's access as user. In case you're wondering where that came from, the access as user, we probably jumped ahead a little bit, but if we go back into our, where's my browser? Here. If we go back into our API, remember, sorry, not the API, but the app registration in the app permissions, we need to get the access as user in order to be able to scope, in order to be able to call the MVC API, because that's expected by the API. So here, let's go back to the code. Access user, and then, wow, I was quite verbose back then. What? Oh, we need to. Do we need to inject the? Should be able to get the. You know what? I know why we need that one, because that's not correct. We need the API in the config. We have this to-do list resource ID. Let me just finish that one. And that's not part of the. So escape that. And then down here, I need to add them here at the root. Because obviously they're not part of the Azure. We don't have that Azure AD object resolver anymore. Although for now, oh God, man, comments in JSON. What was I thinking? And I think that resource ID may have changed because I've changed things. So let's go back into our portal. Let's go into our web. Sorry, the API. Oh wow! When you zoom in, you can barely see things. Let me just close this one and this one, right? So the API has a different application ID, so let's grab that. Because I need to explain why I'm doing this. So in the web, if we look into the API permissions and the access as user, that's the correct one. So that's the one I need to grab, if I remember correctly. So let's ignore that for now. Let's save this. And in here, that's the let's make it literal, so that will be easier. And then down here, just put the scope there. So we have the scope, we have the token getter, so that should go and get the token for us. And then the HTTP client, we can remove these. So let's remove that. We already have the client up in the there, so let's grab this. And we need to add the default header, so default request headers dot authorization equals new authentication header value, and that should be I missed something here. We're talking, that's an awaiter, await. So that should be authentication, that should be bearer. So we have bearer, and then token dot, is it token? Should be just token, right? TP, is it just token? Am I correct here? Should be just token. Yeah, should be just token. There. And what this will do is go and get the right access token for us, add it as a bearer to our HTTP call, and then from here we just need to do this. HTTP client. Oh, we don't have the request there. What should be the request? What should the request be? What is the request should be? So we need to call our API now. Our API is at port. What port is it? Let's check. App settings there, startup, properties, launch.json, 44351. So that's our API endpoint. So here, back into our to-do controller, into get async. And then that will be HTTPS localhost, because we're running locally, 44351. And what is my endpoint? What is my endpoint? If we go here in our controllers, to-do lists, so that should be to-do lists, API to-do list, right? That should be it. So let's go back into code, API to-do list. And because I think we only have one method, which is the getter, so that should get whatever we have in that list. Okay. Yeah, man, I've got quite a few things here. JSON serializer. I want to.
There are all sorts of different HTTP clients you can create too, like named ones. Like I know that we do that with the graph and stuff, and Bolt mentioned too, putting the base address in the client, then you don't have to replicate the client over and over again, especially if you're doing it, like if you're configuring that in startup, you create a configure a named HTTP client and then just refer to it by name. And so he'll. So we started the day. We had Joey from the PowerShell team to come on and talk to us about some enhancements that are coming to PowerShell and just sort of state of the ecosystem, which was really cool. And now Christos is migrating an app from .NET Core 2, which did not use identity.web, to using identity.web. So gutting a lot of the old code and moving it over to use identity.web. So that's what we're doing.
Indeed, that's what we're doing. So, we are using system.text.json instead of neuters.json, and this is the new built-in JSON serializer. Now, in the past, when I was playing around with this one, I came across some issues with the serialization, because neuters.json is different to json.web, system.text.json. So we need to configure some options now, so we don't come across other issues. New JSON serializer options, and then in these options I need to property naming policy equals JSON naming policy dot camel case, and this is because I came across issues before, right? Indented equals true, and I think that we need to pass the, so that will be for the serializer to work. And then down here we have the response, we have the to-do items, and then return view to do, return view to do lowercase to do items. And obviously I am a muppet, because there we go. So we have the response comes back, we get the contents with a string, then we serialize them and then pass them into the to-do item list, which is a key value pair, more or less. Now we don't need all this, so let's move that. Oh, sorry, we had the item list down here. I don't want that. Oh, wow, look at all that code that we can wipe out. Ooh. There's more down here. God. Okay, so I think we need to copy what we had before. And what does this one do? This one does the index. Oh, that's the post. Okay. And I think I may have wiped out. Yeah, try. I think we had a try catch. So let's catch the exception. Instead of wiping out everything, let's catch the exception as before. That's the exception down here. So now we have a try catch, and I need to close the try. Wow, EE. Look at my old naming there. I don't think we're even using this one. Should we, do we need to keep this one, JP? What do you think? So there's a thrown exception, assuming that, well, we need to reauth if the token expires.
No, it looks like that.
That's all the OpenIDC stuff, right?
No, I don't know what reauth is. My suspicion is that may have been in the old, in the old account controller. That if something had happened, it had this reauth tag that it added in. So yeah, I don't think that's.
Okay, so in that case,
particularly valid.
Well, let's remove that. Let's remove the try as well. And let's make it cleaner. If we need to capture some issues before, then from and bar. In fact, we're not even using the item list anymore. So that can go too, because we're turning the to-do items here. Okay, so here we're doing the post. So for the post, we need something similar. Obviously, we need to go and get the access token if we don't have it yet, and then we need to obviously we need not check the valid state. So we provided that the user has provided that information. Let's copy the code from before. So that is that. We need this. So there. We go and grab our scope. Where in fact we could make that a static further up, but for now I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to remove the tie, and then from here, we want to take the information from the model and send it up. So default request header is there. Let's create a new to-do item. So it has an owner and a title. That's all we need to pass. Title would be, what do we have? Title would be, what are we passing in? An item. So we're just passing the to-do item. So that will be item, sorry, the actual to-do string, right? What do we need to do? And then the owner should be the current user. So user dot get object ID. You like that? So we use something else there, JP, instead of the object ID. User dot name, identity.
No, I mean the the object ID of the subject is really the thing we should use. So
there you go.
Because that's going to be immutable for that user. Although, depending on the app and depending on the the permissions, right? So the subject, the SUB claim, is that's sort of the always available immutable ID. That's a part of the spec and should always be available.
Yep.
The subject is unique for the application and user pair. So my subject ID will be different between different apps, right? You could also use the object ID. The object ID, in order to get the object ID, that requires the profile scope because you can track a user across multiple apps at that point because their object ID will stay the same. So in most cases you want to use the subject, but there are certainly cases where the object ID would be appropriate. And internal apps tend to be, and using the object ID in an internal app is pretty common.
Sure.
The subject is sort of the, use the object if you have to, and if you don't, just use the subject. So.
Right. Okay. So next we need to take that to-do item and make it something that we can send up to the API. So that will be a new string content, I guess. And we need string content. What are the other options there? String content, encoding, okay. Oh, we need to serialize that, don't we? So JSON serializer dot serialize, and then we'll pass the raw to-do item. And then for encoding, should we leave the default, you think? Like, do we even need to pass it? Encoding.
Depends on your API, but usually I do UTF-8 encoding.
Yeah, apparently UTF-16 and 32 are quite a mess to work with.
And then media type is usually application.
JSON, yep. Application. Because that's what's expected by our API.
Yeah, and some APIs are more particular about it than others, but for the most part, that that tends to be fairly universal. I know, like Graph, there's different APIs. Some APIs will return different data depending on the accepts header. So, like in some cases, you may need to send in accepts because you may get JSON, you may get XML, you may get plain text, all sorts of CSV.
Right.
So.
And if I remember correctly, we also need to set the header, right? Content type.
You shouldn't have to because the string content will do that for you.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think you have to set
I'll
it.
put
In
it
fact,
there, but...
at one point, content type was read only.
Oh, really? Interesting. Is it because it's more about the response?
Well, it's
rather
because it's derived from the content you're sending.
Okay.
So, like, if you're using string content and you put the media type header in there, it will and you you put the media type in there, it'll get pushed across. Robertable says he feels like this editor is screaming at him and he hates it.
I'm sorry. I will do whatever I can for. Was it screaming like I'm so good at it, or you should have me, please have me. So let's do, var response equals await, because we need to wait our HTTP client. HTTP client dot post, because we're sending it to the API. And that should be HTTPS local hosts. Can't remember the port, so let's check 44351. Can't believe that it screams to JP. I don't like that. So I'll be to do lists. Is that correct? Let's check our controller. Are you having foods? To do lists. Yep. So that's the correct one. Let's hide this so we can have more real estate. To do lists. Close this, and then the content. Amply named content as our variable. And then we're doing a check here to see if that worked. Control, so let me just line it up. Remove the comments, I had too many comments there. Redirect to action, and if we failed, return back to return error or something, right? If is another comment for my
No, Bolt said you should return it all and return all the content in wingtips.
We could do that. We have an error there. Let's remove that. Oh, we had dumping. Perfect. What am I missing? Here. Yeah. So if that works, or if this works, do we have anything else to worry about? What are the error messages? Web host does not contain definition is development. What am I missing here? Web hosting environment.
I don't think it's web host environment. I think it's just host environment now.
Is it?
I think so, but I don't know. Hang on.
Let's go back into the sample, right? Where is the sample? Head up. Next record. Where is it? Where is my... There. So, I'm actually in the web. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to sample.
Oh, no, it is iWeb host environment.
Am I missing something in terms of namespaces, maybe? I don't know. I mean, if it recognizes that, then I don't see why it's complaining about the is... There you go. Is iWeb host environment. Is development. Did I mistype it somehow? Is development. What?
Oh, I don't. It's iWeb host. Yeah, it isn't the other, but.
You know what? I think that my startup needs to be changed. Not the startup, the program needs to change. So I'll just go grab that from the URL here. So if I come here, and if I jump into the what's it? Program.cs. So I'm gonna grab this. Make my life easier. Keep it consistent, because things may have changed between my old 2.0 and 5. So save that. What is missing now? Yeah, we'll use that. Okay. Everything is nice and we don't have any issues. Remove that. We don't need it. And I bet if we go back now, now what? No.
Just build it. I mean, it's just build it. And save your file too, by the way.
Yes. Thank you. I keep on forgetting doing that. Right. .NET build.
There's another error of a missing comma somewhere.
Ooh. Expected comma JSON there. Thank you. That's also way too far indented, isn't it?
It's not YAML. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so still complains about that. That's super weird. These environment. Did it change? No, it shouldn't have changed. I am super confused now. I mean, we can ignore it for now, right? It's not breaking anything.
Yeah, just ignore it. Just see if it builds.
Yeah.
No, don't ignore it. I'm saying, like, just see if it builds without it. Or see if it builds
I don't think it's gonna build, but let's, because it still shows as a problem, right? You know what, I might do a clean.
Yeah, but I mean, you're relying on OmniSharp, which is not the... I mean, you know, it's not necessarily going to be...
One warning. There you go, you're right. It's build succeeded. What's the warning?
So what's the warning?
The target framework that is out of support will not receive security updates. I think it's referring to the service, right?
Okay.
So, because you build both. So
Okay.
.NET build.
No, maybe not.
It's actually failing. iHost environment does not contain. Did I not copy the right thing? Let's go back into the. It's like, how long do you think it's gonna take to build? 5 minutes, and then you're stuck with something weird like this for half an hour. So web host environment is development. I wonder if the namespaces are causing this.
Could be, especially if you've got old ones in there. What's at the top?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to check now. Not sure if I can do that effectively. So,
Microsoft.extensions.hosting. That's the one I think you need. Well, no, you need ASP.NET Core hosting too, but you also need extensions hosting.
Yep. Good cuts. And I think that will solve the problem. Kaboom! That's what was missing. Yeah, always nice to have something to refer to, right? Documentation or otherwise. So let's hide that. Now we could run it and authenticate, but it will fail when it tries to get stuff from the API, I assume. Should we take it for a spin? What do you think, JP?
Sure.
Spin up the API first?
Yeah.
You know, the API won't work because we haven't configured the app settings for it. So let me run the to-do lists. Gonna run. Oh, what? Ah, what? Still complaining about the is development. How is that even possible? Come on, people.
Did you save the file?
God damn. You know, in Visual Studio, you don't have to worry about that because it does it for you. VS Code, you need to be explicit. Be explicit, people. .NET build, okay, .NET run. We're running. Let me see if that allows us to...
So this is the API, yeah?
No, this is the web app. I'm not running the API yet because the API won't run. It's gonna be missing the configuration settings. Remember? Just want to see if that's gonna run at all. Well, we've been prompted to authenticate there. The reply URI specified does not match the reply URLs configured in the application. That should be the right one, isn't it? So CA3E. Okay, let's go. app settings. Client ID CA3E, sign in OIDC. Right?
I can't. I couldn't see the error. What
Oh,
URI
sorry.
was it looking for?
The reply URI specified in the request does not match the one.
Grab the URL and look at. Grab the URL and see what reply URI it's generating.
Bringing it over.
Oh, it's a reprocess. Those don't typically have them in there. Well, so what reply URIs are configured in your
Yeah,
in
that's
your
what I was gonna
registration?
say. Yeah. Don't save. So in the app registration, we have, that's the app registration here, and authentication, HTTPS localhost 5001, sign in OIDC, which is the same as the one that we have here, sign in OIDC.
And it's running on localhost 5001. It hadn't been changed or anything because it's like trying to do something different, or
So we, you know what? It's listening on HTTP 5000, so that's why.
well, it looks like it's HTTP 5001, which is kind of
Yeah.
strange. Can't say I've ever
Let
seen that before.
me check. Yeah, I think that's probably me. That's probably me. That's probably me. Launch settings, HTTPS. There you have it. So let's stop this one. Let's run it. And I think it does redirect, but let's be on the safe side. Redirecting, authenticating. Invalid client. The request body must contain the following parameters: client assertion or client secret. Really? Do we still need a client secret there? Client.
Did you change the token type to code, or the response
we
type
did.
to code?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
If you do that, you have to have a secret.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was hoping to avoid that and not put any secrets there. Fine.
Yeah,
Let's put a secret.
yeah. Well, yeah, because you have to identify the client somehow, because otherwise it's
Sure.
implicit. So you can take
what I'm
that
gonna
out
do
and do
is-
implicit.
But we'll have to go and change the authentication code, sorry, the authentication tab to do that. I mean, so we do it right. I think we should do it right and have a secret there. Although I hate secrets. I hate secrets. Okay, add. So I'm creating a secret right now. I'm trying not to dox myself. I copied it. I'm going to come back here and add the client secret. Sorry, hope folks, just give me 1 second. I mean, we can always change the secret afterwards, but change that. So bring it back and let's rerun the application. Run, open the browser. It should be running, so let's run it now. Redirecting, signing in. Working. Ha! It's working. We have a liftoff. I think it's JP's, and sign out is also working. There you have it. Although I shouldn't have done that because now it's signing me out from my Active Directory as well. Okay, sign in, sign out works. Next, we just need to go and yes, you can autosave. I know that. Thanks, thanks, Bolt. So localhost 5001. Let's sign in with this one, and I can't remember the password. Thank you. So let's see. Just gonna grab my password, stick in there. Password manager for the win. Will it do two-factor authentication security defaults? Damn you, security defaults. 793. So obviously, I'm complaining, but it's a good thing that I get two-factor authentication for not doing anything as a developer. That's the beauty. And what? That's interesting. Would it change the code? And it does have a client secret, so I don't know why it is complaining about that. Huh. JP, thoughts? Do you see that? The first time that you sign in. So localhost 5001. Oh, it worked now. Don't know if it was
We'll sign out and sign back in.
Fully sign out? Okay, let's sign out. So localhost 5001. Select the right account. Paste the password. Sign in. Get a 2FA to work in a second. Four, two. Okay, we didn't get that one before. Yes. See? It happens the first time, and next time it doesn't complain about it. Why would it think it's invalid client?
Well, it's happening when the it's happening when the authorization code is redeemed. Says the client secret's invalid. Just try putting it back in. Just set it again, just to make sure it hasn't been incorrectly.
Sure. Set, you mean? Okay. Let me. Should I create a new one then? I assume. Create a new one. Okay. There's no spaces as far as I can tell, so there's that. But let's create a new one, and then let's stick it in there and see what happens. So Active Directory, NBC Web App, new client secret, expires in 1 year. Copy. And copy the value, not the ID, because they changed the UI at some point for client secrets. Okay. Seems very similar to the previous one. Oh no, that's the right secret. Let me delete the other one. So client secrets. And now the trick will be not to check that code in again, because the IT team will come back and highlight that as a security issue. So we need to avoid checking in that client secret, which is a good case for using local secrets with .NET if you want to. So client secret is set. Let me close that file I saved. And then let's go back to our running the app. So here, like that, and let's run it again. .NET build, .NET run. I'll close this one down. Localhost 5001 redirects to HTTPS. Invalid client. Invalid client secrets provided. That's super weird.
Yeah, something's not right about that. Go back to your startup code.
Startup code.
Keep on going.
Yep. It is code.
Do that. Put that line after you configure the auth.
Oh, really? Would I not
Because
do it a little bit weird?
no, I'm pretty sure those get configured. And
Okay.
yeah, okay. And then your setting is client secret, right? Like
You
is
mean
in
in
your
the,
in your settings file. It's client secret,
Yeah.
right?
Let me double check. I've this bit me before in the past, so I'm pretty client secret, spelled correctly.
And this is the client secret for the web app, not for the API, right?
Let's double check that. MVC Web, certificates and secrets.
And this
Yeah.
is the settings file for that.
Yeah. All the way there. So 6IF, and then I have 6IF in my client secret, so they should match. Very weird.
Was there anything in .NET Secrets or anything, or an environment that's overriding that?
We're not using the secrets anymore, so it wouldn't even be pulling it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's see. No, I haven't used secrets in a very long time, so it's not there. And if you look into the
It's not used to picking up that development file?
let me see which. Oh, this one.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't
Empty.
matter. There's nothing in there. Okay.
And then there's the CS props file, which is here. I don't have the secret tooling at all, so even if I had something, it would be pulling it. Huh.
And does it have any, like, JSON characters that need to be escaped?
It does have some characters. Which ones are the ones that need to be escapable? Let me tell you what I have. I have dots and underscores.
That should be fine.
That
There
should
no
be fine,
curly
right?
braces or no curly
No
braces or anything.
Nope, no curly braces. Just one underscore and 3 dots and 1 dash.
Wait a
Which is
minute.
not
Say that.
escapable.
Wait, 1 underscore. You said 3 dots,
3 dots. Yeah.
like an ellipsis.
No, it's 1 dot and then a few characters and then 2 dots and then some characters.
Okay.
In fact, let me.
I mean, I would just do it. You just delete the secret when we're done.
Yeah. No, you mean
Yeah,
to
who
run it
cares?
so we can check it? Yeah, that's fine. So there you go. That's the secret here. We should match
Now what's-
the one. No, I didn't want to pin it there. I want to pin it in this monitor here. Tag one. Having 2 monitors is always fun. So here, and then I can zoom out probably. Might be able to see, but no, I didn't want to do that. So 6IF, and then it's 6IF. It was a copy paste, right? So copy from here, paste there.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It is pretty weird. The operating station is correct. So the client ID is CA3E, and then if I come here, CA3E, the tenant is correct. I mean, this would throw up error messages if they were not right. So it's weird that it's throwing a client secret error.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Okay, we'll do this.
Should we
Run it
change
again.
to implicit and remove the
Nah,
secret?
just run it again.
Okay.
Maybe, and then open it in like a private window.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're gonna run private window for the win. Just thinking about it. Okay, so we have it up. Then new private window, and then here we have .NET. Sorry, localhost 5000. Seems the right thing. The password is Hunter2. Thank you, folks. And the code is 797622. Yeah, someone stay signed in. Stupid cussing. Okay, let's working.
Yeah, maybe there was some old cookie or something that was laying around. It was trying to use part of that data for something. So so it's working as expected.
It's working, yeah. So
Yeah,
the
okay,
front end
cool.
web is working. Look at that. You remember the old ASP.NET early pages? This is what it is here. It's a piece of history, folks. Now, obviously, if I will go to the to-do list, it's going to fail on its face because we haven't configured the API. But we can probably leave that for the next time. I mean, we can look into what changes we need to do, but I don't think we have enough time to complete that work as well.
Yep.
Okay, let's quickly just do a run-up on... so one of the things that we did not configure here, and maybe we should do that now so we can finish this bit, is that in the startup.cs, we need to configure the ability to acquire the tokens for the downstream API, because even though we have the iToken acquisition configured in the controller, it won't work because it won't know how to do that. So what we need to do, not this one, but here, is under the configuration, we need to say dot enable token acquisition for downstream APIs. This in effect tells that during the authentication, we also want to check for API permissions. So we'll do this, and then because we're going to be calling an API, we want to store or cast the access token, so we don't have to go to Azure AD every single time. And luckily, Microsoft Identity.web provides caching out of the box. If you are running locally and you're testing, which we'll be doing as well, then we can use the in-memory token caches. But the other options there allow you to add a session cache if you want to use sessions and be able to call things in multiple browsers, and you're running in prod, or you have a single instance running in prod. And then if you have multiple instances of that web app or that solution running distributed Kubernetes, multiple instances of web apps or multiple function APIs or whatever, then you can add a distributed token cache, which is again supported out of the box. And as long as you configure your distributed cache further up, line 24, for example, then you should be able to use it out of the box. You don't have to do anything. You just say add a distributed token cache, you pass the token cache that you instantiated before, and you're done. So here we just need to do an in-memory for now, and that's all we need in order to be able to, in our controller, go and acquire the token and be able to call the downstream API, which means that if I save this file and if I run it, should we get the prompt for the incremental consent now, JP? Would that happen now because we added that?
Depends on whether or not you've consented before.
We haven't consented before, I think, or at least that I remember of. So let's sign out from here properly. And this is the private window. Should I come out all the way? Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Too late. So late. Anyway, localhost 5000. Sign in. I have my password here handy without doxing myself, and then I need to remember to go and change my my secret in a bit. 520-409. No, 409. Yes. Oh, maybe I have consented to that already.
Yeah, that'd be my assumption. Or
Yes.
if it's not in the initial list, then you wouldn't be asked until you tried to get a token and it failed. So if you try to get a token and it fails that you need consent, then incremental consent happens. But at this point, we're not requesting one, so we don't actually know if we're gonna be able to get one or not.
Okay. So there you have it. We have the working web app. Then we just need to go back into Just. It's not Just. It will probably require a little bit of work, but it's less work because APIs in general tend to do everything in the startup. So let's have a very quick look into the startup.cs. Again, you can see we have to add authentication. That's the old OpenID Connect provider for ASP.NET. And then in here we also had controllers. We had the controller. We had extensions. So this is again very similar to what we had for the web, where instead of having a UI for the user, we're working with JWT tokens, not JOT tokens, and we validate the token. And this will all be provided by Microsoft Authentic Web, so we don't have to go and manually check for it. In fact, I don't think I even do this one here. So this one has authorized, but I'm not checking whether the user has the right scopes or the right permissions to hit this one. So we'll fix this one as well as we go through. Again, we have some code to remove and a little bit of some changes to do to the API to make it work. And this is a wrap for today's stream.
Cool.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we'll be back to continue our I don't know, theoretical look at identity, fundamentals
Correct,
of identity.
Yep.
So we'll be
Don't forget.
tomorrow at 11 Eastern, and then we'll be back on Friday. Who's coming on Friday?
Who is coming on Friday? That's a very good question. We need to speak to our project manager, Hannah, because she's the one that manages all the coming users. But I have to, or the guests. But let me see if I can quickly find that in our planner. Usually the planner has the information we seek. We're
That's
not
fine.
that disorganized, right?
I don't know if you knew it off the top of your head, but yeah. So
You know what?
we'll be back be back tomorrow.
First day back from holiday, man. I haven't even checked my calendar yet. I don't even know how much email I've got. Yeah, so... anything else in the horizon? Like we have a user group as well on the 7th, which I'll be speaking at. I will provide that information later. It's free to attend, so it's another meetup. Feel free to join us if you want to hear about Microsoft Identity. What do we have? It's the one tag conference or meetup. Who do we have on the? We need to put them into the right order. 22nd, 19th. I've got quite a few people here, but I don't have the one for this Friday. Got,
It's all good. I'm sure we'll figure it out eventually. First week back.
we'll figure it
everybody
out
first
eventually.
week, so.
And we'll need to update our social calendar, so you should be able to find that information as part of the public calendar that we have. So we don't have to look for it. You know where to find it. And if you want to see somebody on the stream, or if you want to be part of the stream, make sure to reach out to us. We have always space for our community to come and talk and build things with us instead of us doing things like today. But today,
Yeah, and thanks for all the feedback we got right before the break. There's a lot of really, really good, interesting ideas and really good feedback in there. So we'll be trying to implement as much of that as we can into the new year. So, but yeah, if you have any more feedback or anything you like or don't like, just send us an email. It's 425show@microsoft.com. And we'll be back tomorrow and then again on Friday. And hope everybody has a good, calm,
2021
easy week back to work. Cause I know I'm ready to go take a nap now. So I guess we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, everyone.